Hello and welcome to my presentation. Today I'll be discussing our study on the effects of spaced repetition on coding skill retention in primary school students. This research addresses a crucial question in education. How can we help young learners not only understand but also retain coding knowledge over the long term? With coding increasingly considered a foundational skill, similar to math or literacy, it's important to find effective ways to teach and reinforce these skills. Traditional teaching methods often focus on short-term mastery, which can lead to rapid forgetting. Students may score well on tests immediately after instruction, but struggle to retain what they have learned over time. Spaced repetition is a memory technique where information is reviewed at increasing intervals, which has been shown to improve long-term retention. It's already widely used in areas like foreign language learning and medicine, where keeping information in memory is critical. Our study aimed to investigate whether spaced repetition could be similarly effective for young learners learning to code, making it easier for them to remember foundational coding concepts for longer periods. To test our hypothesis, we conducted a controlled experiment with primary school students who were divided into two groups. An experimental group that learned coding skills using spaced repetition, and a control group that received traditional instruction without spaced intervals. We had 20 students in total, with 10 in each group. Both groups took a pre-test to measure their baseline knowledge, followed by 2 weeks of instruction. After the instructional phase, they took a post-test to measure immediate learning outcomes. 4 weeks later, they took a follow-up test to measure long-term retention. In this study, the independent variable was the teaching method, spaced repetition versus traditional instruction, while the dependent variable was the students' test scores on the pre-test, post-test, and follow-up test. This experimental design allows us to track both immediate learning gains and retention over time, giving us a comprehensive view of how each method impacted learning and memory. The results of our study revealed some notable differences between the two groups. First, both groups showed improvement from the pre-test to the post-test, indicating that both teaching methods helped the students to learn. However, the experimental group, which used spaced repetition, saw a greater increase in scores. The average score improved by 35 percentage points, from 45% in the pre-test to 80% in the post-test. The control group, which received traditional instruction, also improved, but to a lesser extent. Their scores increased by 25 percentage points, from 47% to 72%. The follow-up test results, which were conducted 4 weeks after the instructional phase, were even more telling. The experimental group retained much of their knowledge, scoring an average of 73%, which was only a slight decrease from their post-test scores. In contrast, the control group's scores dropped more significantly, down to 58%, suggesting that without spaced repetition, most of the information was forgotten over time. In conclusion, our study provides evidence that spaced repetition can be a powerful tool for improving the retention of coding skills in young learners. The experimental group outperformed the control group in both immediate and long-term assessments, suggesting that spaced repetition doesn't just help students learn, it helps them remember what they have learned over time. The implications of these findings are important for coding education. By incorporating spaced repetition into coding curricula, educators can help students build a stronger foundation of skills that they retain for longer. This is especially beneficial in today's digital world, where coding skills are increasingly valuable. Looking ahead, further research could explore the use of spaced repetition in different subjects and age groups. By applying principles from cognitive science to the classroom, we may find new ways to enhance students' learning experiences across a variety of disciplines, supporting them in retaining essential knowledge and skills. Thank you for listening to my presentation.